And we're back. All right. What is going on? How do you? You're back with the Fordcast, hosted by yours truly, your stroked out host. My name is Jim Rico, and I am glad that you have tuned me in. Let me go ahead and take this out because we're not here to play music, although let me just go ahead and let you know that I do not own the rights to PE. I just love their music and I love the opening. So that said, gonna go ahead and get right into it. Let me go ahead and first start by saying that I am truly thankful to be here to record this episode today. Like all other episodes, I'm truly thankful to be able to be in this place. You already know my history, stroke survivor. Um, but just really thankful to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for being here today. Everything starts with my higher power. Everything starts with my higher power. And I think I have kind of gotten away because I try not to force my spirituality or my religion on those who don't want it. But everything with me starts with the higher power. My day starts with prayer. My day ends with prayer. And so, starting off my show and just letting you know, instead of praying with you, I'm just letting you know that I'm truly thankful for my higher power for being here. All right. Thank you, Lord. So, that said, hey, what a week. They killed Big Bird. Did you guys know? We're, oh my gosh. This administration has decided to target Big Bird and murder the Sesame Street family. And if you guys aren't up on this, if you're listening to this and you don't know, let me go ahead and break it down to you. The Trump administration has targeted education, period. Okay? Learning. Now, why would someone target learning? Okay? You just think, why would someone not want you to learn, right? Because learning is what? Knowing, and knowing is knowledge. Knowledge is power, right? So if someone doesn't want you to learn, someone doesn't want you to know, then it's obvious someone doesn't want you to be in power. Look here, I'm starting this off right now. I mean, I have been walking around the edge of a lot of topics just to try and kind of set things up so you can devise your own way of thinking because I don't want to tell you how to think. I want it to come to you in a very natural form. But when somebody is trying to kill Big Bird, which is what they've done, they killed Big Bird, the murder of Big Bird and Sesame Street friends, Elmo, all that. It's done. It's done. And how they've done it is they've cut the funding from PBS, public broadcasting. Now, what the hell did Big Bird and the Sesame Street friends do to this administration? I mean, what the hell? I mean, look here, look here. I don't care who you are, what color, what religion. If you've ever watched Big Bird and Sesame Street, and for me, I just add electric company to that. I know I'm telling my age, but if you've ever watched anything on Sesame Street, it taught you something. Even as an adult, it taught you something, right? And for this administration to try and murder Big Bird, which is essentially what they did, take the funding away from public broadcasting. I mean, you remember when you didn't have to go to school or when you were sick and at home or school was out, what did you turn on? When mom and them were watching the soap operas or The Price is Right, you were in there watching Big Bird on Sesame Street, right? That's what you were watching. But now the kids aren't going to be able to watch that, aren't going to be able to watch that because the funding's being taken away. The television stations that broadcast Big Bird aren't going to be able to broadcast those shows. Look, y'all, at the end of this show, you need to be writing your congressman. If you want to do it now, turn me off and go ahead and write. If you don't know who your congressman is, Google it, goggle it. All right. This is beyond crazy. This is an obvious attempt to keep you and those who don't know out of the know. Because if you're unknowing, and I'm trying to, let's just go and say ignorant. If you are ignorant, then you don't know what the hell to do. If you can't add two plus two, then you don't know if somebody's giving you a $5 bill. I, I'm I've been so let me just slow down. Let me slow down. As you can see, if you know me, I have a few passions in my life. I'm passionate about God. I'm passionate about family. I'm passionate about kids, children. I'm also passionate about voting and, of course, Panther football. Those are my passions. Okay. I mean, these are things that if you get into a conversation with me about, then you better come with what you know because I'm coming back with what I know. I'm not just sitting here standing on the soapbox just chirping. I'm going to talk about what it is, not what it ain't, what it could be. I'm going to tell you how it is from my point of view and how I understand it. And the only thing you can do is tell me the same thing from your point of view. But if you don't know, then all you're going to do is spit something else that you heard from somebody else. And that's what we're hearing a lot. We're hearing that they said this, they said that. Well, what do you know? What do you really know? Right? And if you aren't able to think independently, critically, okay, if you can't think critically for yourself, then you're forced to let somebody else do it for you, which is how we got here in the first place. Okay? I mean, I want you to understand what's happening in government. Now, people talk about government is too much or it's too much government. Listen, government, the government is the people. The government isn't some separate entity that's, making their own cutouts or whatnot. We are electing these people to go to Raleigh, if you're in North Carolina, okay, and Washington. We are electing these people. We're electing them based on what we know about them and what they tell us they're going to do. Now, it's on us, you and me, to do our homework and to understand that either these people are about what they say or they're lying. As this administration has proven time and time again, I don't understand how some people are still supporting them. You have got to be very dim in your mindset to think that taking away public broadcasting, which public broadcasting was brought in because everybody doesn't have access. Everybody doesn't have access. You already know that. And the public broadcast system is exactly what it's for, the public, right? To teach the public different things about life. I remember growing up and listening, watching Big Blue World. It's where I was able to write and get a pen pal from across the globe. My very first pen pal. Without PBS, that wouldn't have did nothing. That to me opened my mind. When I got that letter in the mail from another country, can you imagine? Well, maybe you can unless you actually did it. But when I got that letter, I was so excited that I actually had a pen pal. This was through PBS. This is through public broadcasting. I found out how a bill works. Remember the bill? I'm just a bill. You remember that? That was public broadcasting. What fool is going to take away that? The Trump administration. And listen, I need you to understand it is not Donald Trump doing this. This is Donald Trump's cronies doing this. Donald Trump isn't that smart. He is not that smart of a man to do this on his own. These are the people that are working with him. Now, the people in his cabinet aren't that smart either. Okay. It's the people up under him. These people that put together this Heritage 2025 plan that he said he knew nothing about. I mean, have you been lied to enough? I mean, have you been lied to enough? Or are you just foolish and afraid? Now, I can understand you being afraid, but let me tell you something. My God, my God gives us the spirit of courage, not of fear. Okay? Not of any man. Okay? That's my God. I would love for you to meet him, to understand who my God is. And if you're interested, hey, give me a call, send me an email. We can talk about it. Speaking of that, send your comments to Jim Rico at the Fordcast with Jim Rico. That's Rico. If you want to chat at the same time, I need you guys to support this 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 show. I need you to support this show. There's a stroke there popping up. Please, if you like what I'm saying, if anything makes sense, if something hits true, then show your support. All right, because as you'll find out later, we need it. We need you to support this show monetarily with funds, okay? Because it costs to do these things, and there are a lot of other things happening, and not just funds taken away from public broadcasting. But so, anyway, let me get back. I'm very passionate about the kids. And so, when I found out that Big Bird was being killed, taken off, defunded, however you want to call it, by this administration, it infuriated me. And if you're not infuriated, then you must be ignorant, brain dead, or something. And it's not fair to the kids who don't have a say that we, as citizens of this country, are sitting back and allowing this to happen. If you have not sent your congressman an email or a phone call and asked him what the fuck, okay, and asked them what the fuck are they doing, then it's on you too. It's on you because look here, like I told you before, the time has gone for us to be thinking about that there are people that are going to do the right thing. There are people doing the wrong thing in our faces and daring us to do something about it. That's what this administration is doing. They are breaking laws and daring the courts to say anything about it. This is not America. This is something else. Okay? Now, I'm a black American, and I know what it's like to be taken advantage of. All most of the Americans, you're now realizing what it's like to be black, or basically to be a nigger in America. Okay? By people telling you one thing, doing another, lying to you, moving the goalposts, saying one thing. I mean, this is what black people have been experiencing for eternity. Not eternity, ever since we got here about 450 years ago. So, I mean, you can probably hear anger in my voice. You might hear passion, but if you don't hear anything, you need to hear that you need to do something. You cannot sit back and let and think that somebody else is going to do it for you. Nobody's coming to save us. Nobody's coming to save us. I think about the late, not the late, the former coach for the Panthers, John Fox, saying all the time, well, of course, one of his saying it is what it is, but one thing he used to say was, nobody's coming to save us. And America, nobody's coming in to save us. The United Nations is definitely not coming to save us. Okay. We're going to have to do this thing on our own. We're going to do it on our own. And the only way we're going to do it is we're going to have to stand up to these cowardly politicians. Y'all, we have some of the most cowardly politicians. These guys cannot stand up to these people. And I'm going to tell you how you know that they're cowards, because they want to stay in office, because they're making money off of you and me, the taxpayer, in order to do what they do. And they don't want to mess up that income by standing up to this guy, because all he has to do is wave his magic fingers, and those who are voting, remember, there are a lot of good people out there that don't vote, okay? Because the good people are thinking that there are other people that are going to do the right thing. The days are gone. Those days are gone. They're over, done, finito. If you're a good person, then you're going to need to prove it. The bad people are proving themselves. It's time for good people to stand up. And you got to stand up for those who can't speak for themselves. There are parts in our country where people are still being victimized, not being allowed to vote. In North Carolina right now, there's a trial going on about gerrymandering. And I think we talked about it before on the show, but as the North Carolina General Assembly, again, that is the legislative body for North Carolina. They're the ones who make the state laws. They're the ones who decided to give over $1 billion in private school vouchers, which took that money from public schools. Okay. Those are the people that we elect. All right. We elect these people to office. And if we're not paying attention to who we elect, then we send anybody to Raleigh. And that's what has happened. We've sent these cowards, these people who have a different set of agenda. They don't care about you. They don't care about rural Americans. I'm talking to everybody. If you're white, black, no, these people are caring about what their people do. And they didn't send their kids to public schools, so they don't care about public schools. They're taking the money out of public schools to keep your kids dumber so that they can't grow up and help contribute to the world. You think about all these kids that are going out here. You think about those two little girls, two little black girls that solved the Pythagorean. Oh, okay, somebody, what is that? Pirate, help me out, help me out. The 2,000-year-old mathematics thing that these two little black girls from New Orleans solved proved this theory, the Pythagorean theory. I believe that's it. And if I'm not right, then blame it on the stroke. But think about these two little girls in New Orleans, one of the Louisiana, one of these hotbeds of racism and whatnot. Can you imagine? And these are two little black girls that they're now in college, okay, but they saw this in high school. They went to a Catholic school, where they saw this. But these are kids that can contribute. And there are so many more kids that can contribute to this country, but we're keeping them in the dark. We're not educating them. We're not educating them. Okay. And if you don't understand that when we aren't educating our kids, that we're messing up our own future, then I don't know what to tell you. I don't see how, if you're not investing in your kids, then you're not investing in your own future. Because one day you're going to get old and you're going to need someone to care for you. If your kids are at home and don't have a career and never went out to work, how in the hell are they going to take care of you? How? I mean, just think about it. How are they going to take care of you? Now we've got some. All right, all right. It's a lot to talk about. It's a lot to talk about, y'all. But the focus today is on our children's future. Okay, and we're leaving our children's futures to be determined by people who send their kids to private school. Now, if you've never been to a private school, and probably most of you haven't, then your kids are probably not going to private school. I had the opportunity to go to a private school, and it was one of the greatest educations I had. When I left private school to go to public school, I was so far ahead of the public school kids that it caused problems with my teachers. And that's exactly what it is now. In private school, they're teaching on a whole nother level. That's why your public schools have lost their teachers, because the private schools have the money to pay them more. Okay. And this North Carolina General Assembly, in their Senate bill, they're giving these private school vouchers. They're giving this money to private schools. Let me break this down to you. They're giving this money to private schools and taking it out of public schools. That's why you don't have shop anymore. That's why you don't have cosmetology. That's why you don't have the startups for health occupation in America. I mean, in high school, there were so many things that you learned that when you came out of high school, at least you had an idea or something that you could do to go out and earn an income. Nowadays, no, they're just kicking you out, and then you're left to fend for yourself. That's because they've taken the money out of these different programs in high school. It's not that the money wasn't there. The money has been there. Look, if you have a politician tell you that it's not in the budget, then you need to ask the politician, well, what is? Now, as far as these private schools, let me break this down to you. You know Greg Olson, right? Right? Greg Olson, the former Carolina Panther tight end. I don't know if we can call him the great Greg Olson. I don't know what actually, I mean, I love Greg. He did his thing for us. He's probably one of the greatest tight ends in the short Carolina Panther history. We've only been around 30 years. And before then, it was what, Wesley Walls. I mean, so I don't know if I'm going to put him above Wesley or, it doesn't matter. But you know who Greg Olson is. Greg Olson, who was making about what, 12 million a year, 25 million a year until Tom Brady came on the scene and they bumped him down. Greg Olson lives in Charlotte and sends his kids to private school. Greg Olson qualifies for a private school voucher. That is right. Making $25 million a year under the General Assembly that passed this Senate Bill 382, because there are no income limits. Now, it used to be that the private school vouchers were for people who couldn't afford private school. Now, even if you can afford it, the state is going to give your tax dollars to Greg Olson so he can send his kids to a school that he can already afford, right? So what does he do with that tax voucher? He donates it to the weight room. Your tax money goes to the private school weight room to help build their weight room up. Meanwhile, you got weight rooms at, for example, West Charlotte High School, my alma mater, Dub C, Go Lions. We're struggling to fund our own weight room, because we don't have a Greg Olson. We've got a Steve Wilkes who's been fantastic with his giving, but that's just what I'm trying to prove to you. Greg Olson does not need a private school voucher. Why would the General Assembly do this? Why would the General Assembly do this? And what they'll tell you is they want to make education. Let me see. Let me see how do they spin it, because you got to understand, when they're talking to you, they want you to be able to understand but not understand. Okay? They call it school of choice. They want to give all parents the freedom of school choice. Well, that's fine if you don't want to send your kids to public school, but don't take the public school money out to give it to private schools. That's it. Bottom line. If you want to send your kid to a private school, then you need to pay for it. And it shouldn't come out of the public taxpayers' dollars. It shouldn't be your money. Now, if you think you don't pay taxes, every time you buy something in North Carolina, it's taxed. So yes, you pay taxes. And part of your tax dollars, instead of going to the public schools that could possibly educate your child for your better future, are instead going to Greg Olson's kids, right? Okay? They're going to Greg Olson's kids' school and everybody else who goes to that school. This is true. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. I mean, I haven't even begun to begin, but I mean, this it's just really upsetting to me because kids are our future. Kids are our future. And if you don't invest in your kids, if we aren't investing in our kids, we aren't investing in our future. We cannot allow a few people to just be in the know. Everybody deserves to be educated fairly and equally. Everybody deserves a good education. And in North Carolina, it's just not happening. It's not happening because they've given over 1 billion, count it, over $1 billion on this private school vouchers that send people. Oh, all right. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. My name is Jim Rico, and you're listening to the Fordcast. All right. We're back here at the Fordcast with your stroked out host, Jim Rico. Ooh, excuse me. That's one thing about unedited. So, I just want to let you know I do not own the rights to any of the music that you're listening to. And right before we went to break, I was talking about, the whole private school voucher, which is one thing that really upsets me. It really upsets me because I've attended a private school and a public school, and I know the difference. And we weren't rich by far. I got to tell you that. Me going to a private school, I believe we probably were on the poor list, you know. So we were, there was a voucher for us. I don't know where it is, but um, I appreciate my mother um, providing that opportunity for us to have that education because it taught me a lot about responsibility and duty. We went to school with nuns, um, and not only did we learn about God, but we learned about what being a good citizen, and most of all, being a credit to the human race. It's what they taught us about being a credit to your race. All right. So this for me, this privatization of education. I mean, we hadn't even talked about the Trump administration closing the Department of Education. There is so much happening that it will make your head spin. And that is the goal, to make your head spin and say, oh, throw your hands up and do nothing. But that is the absolute worst thing that you can do right now is do nothing. The worst thing you can do is do nothing. You know what you can do? The first thing you got to do is you got to decide for yourself, do I love my kids? You know, do you love your kids? Now, there's no reason to candy coat this any longer. There are a lot of kids out here that are being born that we don't care about as parents. Yeah, let that sink in. There are a lot of kids out here that are being born from one night stands, from random sex acts, and the father's blown town or the mother has blown town, and you're left with a single parent or auntie or grandmother, and those kids are growing up without somebody advocating for their future. So the first thing you're going to have to decide if you have children is whether or not you care about your kids enough to do something. And I hope that you do, and if you don't, then that's fine. We're going to talk about that in another show. But there are so many issues going on that our kids need our help, y'all. And if you don't have kids, then you are someone who really needs to jump into this because you can help those who don't have a voice. But you got to decide, if I have kids, what am I willing to sacrifice for my kids? Are you willing to sacrifice an evening of hanging out with your friends, your girlfriends, or your buddies and going to the school? Are you willing to sacrifice um, some time in the evening to draft a letter or send an email to your representative, to your North Carolina representative? Now remember, you got a representative for the state and a representative to the country, Congress. Okay? And if you aren't being involved in either of those, okay, if you aren't involved in voting in the people who have good intentions for the general public, then you are allowing people who have bad intentions for the general public to take over, which is what has happened. That's what has happened. These people don't care about all Americans. These people don't care about your kids getting a good education. The North Carolina General Assembly, look at the votes. The votes, there are some people in the North Carolina General Assembly that are doing good things and trying to fight these people off. But there are some other people that are cowards that don't want to go against anything that's Trump related because they're scared they're going to be ostracized or outed. These are the cowards. There are a lot of cowards in the North Carolina General Assembly. There are a lot of cowards in Congress. There are a lot of cowards in America. Okay? And I'm calling them out. They're cowards. Cowards, people who can't do anything by themselves. They need a group. They need, like, the Klan. Like, you never seen one Klan member doing something on his own. There's always a bunch of them in sheets. Okay? And the ones that are taking that power on their own, then I applaud you. Okay, if you got the balls to do it on your own, then more power to you. But there aren't a whole bunch of you. Most of you are cowards, and a lot of these Klan members are in the North Carolina General Assembly. Okay, I'm not going to get into that all the way, but when you're doing things to intentionally hurt children, when you're killing Big Bird, who has done nothing but educate decades, generations of kids, okay? When you're doing stuff like that and you're talking about they're teaching radical, the, what? Are you fucking kidding me? What is Big Bird teaching that's radical? I mean, if you're at a certain age, you should understand, like grandparents, I'm talking to you, and great grands. You're at a point now where you should have begun to reflect back and be able to go back to your kids and your grandkids and be able to school them on the right things. Now, if you aren't doing that, shame on you. Shame on you. And the reason we are where we are right now is because of that. We don't have that many problems as a country. We don't have that many problems. But one of our biggest problems is we got this idea that people are just going to do the right thing. And like I would tell my kids growing up, listen, it is hard to be good. It is hard to be good. It's easy to be bad. It is so easy to be bad. I mean, you could, and that's because there's so much bad going on. There's so much bad. It's hard to be good. It's hard to stand alone and say, no, I'm not going to do that when you know it's wrong. You know, it's hard to stand out by yourself because everybody wants to, everybody wants to be in the in club. Everybody wants to be in the crowd. And if you got a crowd of people or a mob, like those people who stormed the Capitol, or excuse me, the Patriots, as they were called, bullshit. They were all a bunch of, it was a mob, an ignorant mob. And it is a shame. It is a shame that these people, what, all right, all right. So back to the kids. Y'all, I love children. I've always loved children. And I remember being a kid and how freeing it was to be a child. I remember that there were always people that were looking out for me, that for my good, whether they knew me or not. I remember as a kid, I remember strangers would look out for me if I got too close to the curb or if I was doing something, a stranger would look out for me. Nowadays, I don't know if that's still happening across the board, but obviously, by how we're voting or not voting, it's not happening anymore because we're not looking out for our kids. Do you know who your representative is and how they voted on this Senate Bill 382, which took over $1 billion out of public school funding and gave it to private schools? Basically, gave it to Greg Olson, okay, and his football millionaire friends, okay? Greg Olson doesn't need the money. I'm pretty sure Greg Olson be the first to say, look, I didn't take the private school back. I'm pretty sure he would, but he can. He can take that money and turn right around and donate it to the school. Here's a bonus for the teachers, right? We're the bonus for the public schools teachers. We don't have it because we've given that money to the public schools, the private schools in vouchers. This is what we allowed them to do because we didn't stand up for our kids. We have got to stand up for our kids. Something else I was thinking about that I wanted to bring to you. Growing up and learning about history, we used to hear about London and the London fog and the industrialization, um, child workers and whatnot. And this is about government again, okay? Remember, because government is the people. Government is us. The government is whoever we put in office. If we put good people in government, then we got good government. If we put bad people in government, then we have bad government. And you'll often hear other people talk about how we need to take so much of the government out of whatever. But what are you talking about? The good government or the bad government? Because we need government. This is how I'm pulling that point together. Los Angeles used to be known Los Angeles used to be our London for their smog and whatnot. If it wasn't for the green initiatives, then that smog would continuously be there, and every other city that was growing, like Charlotte, would not have initiatives to decrease what we were putting into the atmosphere. But because of government initiatives, good people in government, okay, this is why we have these green policies that control the white smoke that's coming out your tailpipes. Okay, this is what government did. Anybody that tells you we don't need government, what they're telling you is that we don't need bad government. Regulations are necessary. All right. The only way you can change things on a national scale, all right, is to have money and power. Government has those things. People have power when they work together. So, anyway, all right. I'm trying to stay focused. You guys know I've had a stroke, but when I talk about things that are passionate to me, I tend to think about a lot of things. But if we're going to make the sacrifice, we need to be sacrificing for our kids. Too many of us are living for today, and we don't want to sacrifice for our kids. I remember coming up, I remember when my kid was small, and this is back when I smoked cigarettes, and I wouldn't smoke in the house, and I wouldn't smoke around my kids. And I would leave the house to go to the store, and that would be my smoke break. And I remember my daughter, Imani, always asked me, "Can I go? Can I go?" And I was like, "No, you stay here. I'll be right back," because I didn't want to smoke around her. And, that was the thing. I didn't want to expose her to smoke. I wanted to go sneak and smoke and whatnot. And that was my reason. I was sacrificing that time with my daughter for a damn cigarette. Honestly, straight up, I was. And as time went on, and Imani's mother and I split, and I would often think about all those times that she said, "Daddy, can I go?" And how I chose the cigarette over spending time with my kid. You know, that's just one of the sacrifices that I'm asking if you're making. What sacrifice are you making for your kids as far as their future? Are you going to the PTA meetings? Are you looking at who's running for school board? Look, you don't have to be a Nobel Peace Prize, or you don't have to be an MIT graduate. You don't need to know everything, but you can ask questions and have people explain things to you. And anybody that's telling you that taking money from public funds, from the taxpayers' funds, and giving them to a private society, Country Day, Providence Day, okay, all of these private schools that already have funding because they're charging thousands of dollars for tuition a year. And then we're going to turn around and talk about the General Assembly because we're letting them do it. We're going to turn around and give them $1 billion more dollars, but we're taking that away from the public schools. We're taking sports out. Kids can't play sports anymore because there's no money for it. The physicals that happen year round, I mean, it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. And if you are somebody that is okay with this, then stay out of my way. Just stay out of my way, stay out of my face. Don't come talk to me. These times that we're living in now are treacherous. We are literally on the brink. All it takes, let me tell you this, and this is something that you might hear in closed circles. Do you realize that all they have to do is pass a law that says certain people can be enslaved in the United States and it would happen? There's no law in the Constitution that says, wait a minute, or is there? Hold on, hold on. Yes, but all they have to do is draft legislation and bring slavery back. That's how easy it is. I mean, these guys that are already, this administration, they've defied the federal courts, they've defied the Supreme Courts. These guys are on a rampage, and it's come down to the state level. The state level, we have got to stop it. We have got to stop it. We've got to stop it. And I don't know if you guys heard that, but that was my tummy. That was my tummy. Yes. So as soon as I finish this, I'm gonna go and grab something to eat. But in the meantime, between time, we're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna come right back. This is the Fordcast with your host Jim Rico. We're gonna be right back. All right, we're back here at the Fordcast with your stroked out host Jim Rico. Again, I do not own the rights to any of the music. You know, this song right here is so fitting. The temptation I can't get next to you, because if you aren't trying to fight for our kids' future, I can't get next to you. I really can't. I mean, the kids need our help. The kids need us to be involved. You know, kids are supposed to be in school. You know, kids are supposed to have a great education. Um, Kids are not responsible enough to learn about life on their own. School is where you go learn about the most basic of things: reading, writing, arithmetic, but it socializes you. It lets you see the people that you're going to be a part of their lives forever. You know, I have a good friend I've known since I was 5 years old. I have a lot of other friends I've known, for a length of time, but we actually started school together, and school taught us about unity, you know, because when you spend time with someone, you begin to actually care about them, you know. At West Charlotte High School, I was talking about on the previous show, there were black, white. I mean, we didn't have, I can't remember one racial incident in our school ever, ever at West Charlotte, because we had come together for one thing. We all knew we wanted to learn, and we all were supporting one another. And it was, oh my gosh, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Now, after that, there were a lot of people who didn't like what we were doing at West Charlotte, because there are a lot of people who don't want black and white people to get along. There's a lot of racist white supremacists in power that they aren't going to tell you that they are. I mean, you if you can go out and find somebody that says, "Hey, I'm a white supremacist," then good luck. Okay, but what most people will tell you is that there's no racism, there's no bigotry, there's no systemic racism. I mean, these are the people that are lying. But you know how you can figure them out? Anybody that tells you that they're against reparations, then that's a good idea. Because black people, we're owed a check. Remember, we're still owed that check. So anyway, don't want to get into that, but West Charlotte was the model that I grew up with, right off the Beatties Ford. We're right off the Ford, you know, the model for excellence. I mean, not just scholastically, but socially. I mean, it was beautiful, and I would really like to see that kind of coming back as a whole. So, kids in schools are supposed to educate and possibly inspire. You know, we'd like to think that our parents inspire us, or our neighbors, or churches, or whatever, or our figures or role models inspire us, but school inspires kids from the giddy up, because kids go to school, they usually have their first crush on a teacher, whether it's male or female, or the cafeteria worker, the janitor, but it's where they learn a lot of their first. And our schools are supposed to be employing qualified instructors and administrators who care about education. But when we take that money away from the schools, then we have to get less qualified instructors and administrators. They still might care, but the best and the brightest, we should have those at our disposal in our schools. And again, if we're not properly investing in our schools, then we're not investing in our own futures. I mean, that's how it works. If we're not investing in our own future, then we're kind of rolling the dice. And I was talking about earlier, if you aren't investing in your own child, then what's your future going to look like? If you don't have a 401k or a pension fund, or something that most Americans don't have to live off of, are you going to live off Social Security? Well, hell, they're trying to eliminate that too, you know? There are a lot of things going on, folks, that we are part of that we're not paying attention to. And as Americans in this year, 2025, the year of our Lord, we've got to change our thinking. We have got to get in the game. All right. We have got to start giving our kids A's for success, attention, accountability, academic success, acknowledgement, aptitude, attitude, advisement, and admonishment. We've got to stop allowing other people to teach our kids about the basics. And I'll say it again, the baby boomers, I'm a child of a baby boomer. The baby boomers thought that once all the civil rights legislation had passed, that the people in charge of educating our kids and in charge of administrating to the educators of our kids, they took a they sat back and said, okay, our country's in good hands now because these people are going to do the right thing. Not, not. After that civil rights legislation passed, these people with this Heritage Foundation 2025, they went to work. They went to work. And after Barack Obama was elected, they went into high mode work. Okay? The Tea Parties. Okay? All right. And now the Trumpsters, the Make America Great Again. Just exactly what does Make America Great Again? Every time I hear that, I think about what are they trying to do? Bring us back to slavery? And that's literally, modern day slavery. When you don't know, then you're forced to have somebody tell you what to know. If you can't think independently on your own, then you are ignorant. And we've got too many ignorant Americans. But let me go ahead and say this because we're going to close it out. I really didn't get a chance to talk about everything I want to talk about, but I want you to remember the power is in your voice. If you don't want to use your voice through your mouth, use your voice through your pen. If you don't want to use the voice through your pen, use the voice through your fingers. If you don't want to and when I say fingers, I mean writing, typing, okay? If you don't want to do that, send an email, or you don't want to be out protesting, then you got to vote. You got to vote, and you just can't vote for anybody. You need to use that telephone and read about who these people are, where they come from. You need to find out what they've been doing with their life. And listen, we got to stop electing attorneys and lawyers into public office. Why are we? Listen, the reason is obvious because they have money, and when you have money, you can pay for campaigns. You can put all those signs out there. You can flood the market, okay? And usually people in professional roles have a lot more money than people in non-professional roles, your lawyers, your doctors. But we got too many lawyers in Congress, you know? And these lawyers get up there and the wrong lawyers, okay? The wrong lawyers get up there and they're constantly trying to make new laws and legislation like this bill that is giving over $1 billion of taxpayer money. Do you know how much $1 billion is? Do you know what $1 billion could do for the 100 counties of North Carolina? That's 100 million per county. That is $100 million per county that could go to public schools. And if you live in one of the most rural counties in North Carolina, think about what $100 million influx to your county could do. I definitely know what it could do for Charlotte Mecklenburg. But if you're living in one of these outside counties, in the mountains and whatnot, think about what $100 million could do. Am I right? Am I right? Is my math right? Or am I thinking 10 million? Okay. Okay. Whatever it is, you do the math. You do the math. But listen, I want you to understand that you have power. The power is in the pen, your fingers, your voice, okay? Your vote. There is power. And that's why people are trying to buy your vote, Elon Musk, okay? Because no matter what, until it's not here anymore, we still live in a democracy. Until it's not here anymore, we're still living in a democracy. And we got to fight like hell more than ever to keep it. I mean, I'm not trying to blow smoke up your tail or whatnot, but There are people who understand that there's power in the vote. And if you can keep the voters in the dark, then they won't know what to vote on. They won't know what to vote on, so they won't vote. Now, we've got an election this year. There's an election every single year, in case you're not aware of that. There's an election every single year. Whether it's your city, as in Charlotte, we're about to elect city council, we're about to vote for a mayor, we're about to put in a new school board. Now, here's what you need to be doing for this election. You need to be finding out who are the people running for the school board. What what are their positions on educating? You know, there was this big thing a few years ago with LGBTQ and, not having certain books in the library. Well, it's the school board who decides these things. Okay, it's your local school board who decides these things. So whoever's running, you need to find them out. Send them an email, ask them any question you want to. You have got to get in the know. Basically, ignorance is not doing us any good. And if you don't have a kid that's going to school and you don't have a kid that's school age, you're needed even more because you're an independent person who is unbiased and you could help make a decision. Okay? We got to vote for people who can't vote for themselves. We have to think because no matter what sometimes we just won't do. Remember, it's easy to be good, hard to be bad. Nope. It's easy to be bad, hard to be good because being good sometimes requires things of us that makes us feel uncomfortable, like courage. Okay, we have to be encouraged, and I'm hoping that listening today offers you a little bit of encouragement. But just please know that um, killing Big Bird, killing Ernie, killing Elmo. I mean, you got to be a sorry son of a bitch to want to kill Sesame Street. You have got to be a sorry son of a bitch to want to kill Big Bird and then blame it on some radical left wing. My God, how long has Big Bird? I've never heard Big Bird say anything radical. But you've got a president who will say that Big Bird is radical. And if you aren't smart enough to know that that's a damn lie, if you aren't smart enough to say, no, sir, you are a lie, if you don't have the courage for that, then I don't know. Are you really an American? Because I thought that's what Americans were about, the brave, Matter of fact, where's Jack Ryan? Do we have any more Jack Ryans? Where is Jack Ryan when you need him? Okay. I'm talking about my counterpart, from the Fordcast with Harrison Ford. Hats off to Harrison Ford. But we need some Jack Ryans. Will some Jack Ryans please stand up? We need somebody that has the courage and we need to get behind them. The young lady, the young African American lady from Texas, I applaud her because she is out there, it seems like on an island sometimes. I remember when what's her name, Marjorie Green Taylor, when she attacked her, something about her eyelashes. Can you imagine a senator talking about another senator's eyelashes? Like, what kind of shit is that? Like, are you serious? We're sitting here talking about people's eyelashes. I mean, that's where we have allowed ourselves to be because somebody elected Marjorie Green Taylor to office. Those fools keep electing her to office. We're the fools that's not trying to not get her in office. We should be voting to get her out, you know. But that's in Texas, I don't live in Texas, so I don't know. I don't know who the Jim Rico of Texas is. I'm the Jim Rico. I live in North Carolina, and I'm trying to take care of my own backyard right now. I mean, if we can do something about Texas, then great. But I just applaud that young African American senator who is out there fighting for not just African Americans, she's fighting for everybody because there are people who are just in the dark. There aren't people of color. There's so many people that have lived in these areas where education isn't important that they depend on turning on the television and having someone explain what is going on in the world to them. Remember, I told you about my trip to West Virginia, okay? When I saw absolutely no African Americans the entire day I was there, from sun up to sundown, I saw not one single person of color. And then when I went to the hotel because I couldn't complete my business trip that night, I popped on the boob tube. What was the first thing I saw? African Americans, right? And that's how some people are educated because who owns the radio stations? Who owns the television station? They can put on what they want. And unfortunately, those people are the ones who've been taken advantage of. There's some good people that are not of color. There's some bad people of color. And basically, I'm saying they're good white people and bad black people. They're bad white people and good black people and all in between. And now, at this point in our country's history, at the present time right now, it's hard to figure out who's who or which is which because for the last 20 years, we haven't been educating ourselves. We've been allowing somebody to tell us. Meanwhile, we've been caught up in a lot of entertainment, Hollywood, cell phones, movies, the internet, you know, entertainment. Meanwhile, those other people, they've been working behind the doors. Remember the Wizard of Oz? You remember? There's somebody behind the curtain. And if you aren't trying to pull that curtain back, then people are gonna show you whatever movie they want you to see. I hope that's not too much over somebody's head. Um, but anyway, I had a lot of other stuff I wanted to talk about as far as kids. But if you're a parent, a grandparent, a great grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, and you care about those people who can't decide for themselves or who can't make decisions for themselves, I would encourage you to get involved. Get off of the couch. Get If you're on your phone, you got the power right there in your hand. Okay, inform yourself. Understand what's happening in this year's election. You have to vote in every single election. Next year, 2026 is oh so important because next year is when you get to decide if the people that are in Congress now, the cowards that are in Congress now that are caving in to every whim that this Trump administration is doing, okay, you get to decide that. And here's another thing, this Supreme Court that is seemingly not even a judicial branch anymore, talk about the Supreme Court. Congress could change that because it seems like a lot of the things that they're doing are not fair. And if there was a consensus amongst Congress that the Supreme Court needed to be changed, then they could make those changes. But guess who sends the people to Congress? You do. I do. We send those people to Congress. And next year, we're going to decide who's going to Congress, who's going to come out, who's going to come in. Now, in my opinion, every last one of them need to come out. Everyone that has supported this man through the lies and just okay. All right. See, I want to keep talking about the kids, but it always leads to something else because kids don't get to decide how they come into the world. They don't ask to be here. It's up to us to protect them. And if we aren't protecting our kids, then what are we doing? You know, have we not been entertained enough? Come on, y'all. Let's do something for the kids. Let's make it about the kids. Let's make it about our future, this country's future. Let's make that a deal. Let's make that the biggest deal. Let's talk about it. Get with whoever you know. You need to start talking about these things with your family members, about what this upcoming election looks like. You need to have somebody that you trust in the family that can explain it to everybody else. All right. We got a lot of problems in this country and a lot of trauma, a lot of mental therapy, and especially for minorities. This is Minority Mental Health Month, by the way, in case you didn't know. So there's a focus on minority mental health, but this is not a minority thing. This is an American thing. because there are lots of things that have been going on in this country for a long time that we have just been overlooking. You know, we've not paid attention to it, and we can't do it any longer. So, need you to start paying attention. Need you to start getting it together. Need you to start talking amongst with yourselves and whoever it is that you care about. But if it's not for the kids, then you're just being completely selfish. And I wish we would stop doing that. All right. So that's it for this episode. Again, email me at the Fordcast at Jim Rico at the Fordcast with JimRico.com. Please support the show. If you got an extra 5, 10, 20, 100, 1,000, a G, support the show. We need your support. Um, we definitely need your support at this time, so that we can continue to come here and be able to talk to you about it. Hell, who knows? I might get a knock at my door with the secret. Now, this is crazy, right? Because everybody that talks about this president, they seemingly find themselves in legal trouble. So, so you might hear about Jim Rico needing to establish a legal fund. I mean, I'm not kidding. I am so serious because when people are trying to keep you in the dark, they're going to silence anything that's going to shine a light. Did you hear that? When people are trying to keep you in the dark, then they're going to silence anything that is going to shed light. So be your own light, y'all. Be your own light. Okay? Let's we got it right here in our hands. The phone is one of the most powerful things, and your brain is the most powerful thing that you have. Remember that. All right. I love you, and I hope you all take care. We'll talk to you later. This is the Forecast with Jim Rico, your stroked out host. Until next week. Again, I don't own the music, own the rights to any of the music, but I like it. Okay. Take care.